Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope you all are doing well. Welcome back to the beginnings of the hunt. Hope you all are doing well. Hope you had a good Wednesday and you're ready for another bangers, folks. Like I said, these two classes, I'm putting all I got into them. These are the secrets, the tips I've learned over the last 10 years, condensed into one session on how to get through your technical interviews. And so we got a lot of really important stuff to get into tonight, things that are literally going to be the game changer when it comes to you 360 slam dunking through your technical interviews. We had a lot of cool stuff before we even got started, and different. Hey, thank you for the 5 get to subs. Thank you for being here. Hope you're doing well. We also had the raid. Hellas Rufio with 114. Let's go. There ain't nothing better to do before this stream than Rufio's stream, coming through with the stream team. And we got Melody Dev coming through in another raid as well. When you come on now? When are you getting on the stream team? When are we making this happen? And Blah said this is one of their favorite classes. I can't. That's it, folks. Let's wrap it up right there. Blah's favorite class, one of Blah's favorite classes. You know what you're in for. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Enough said. Exactly. They're at 155. Let's go. Let's go. Bangers only indeed. So a lot of fun stuff to get to tonight. A lot of things that we're going to start putting in practice, things to start putting in motion so that over the next few weeks, we get ready for that hunt. We need to start sharpening our spears. We got to start building our shields. We got to get ready for the hunt. And so on Tuesday, we talked about all the little things we have to start doing to open all those doors that are going to help us to get the technical interviews. And then once we have the interviews, tonight's class is going to prepare you for them. A lot of folks, we know this, a lot of folks go into this process like an accident. So Sarat, hey, how you been? Hey, thank you for the 5 get the subs. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. Hey, this is awesome. Thank you for being here. Hope you're doing well. Like I said, folks, a lot of people go into this process like an accident. They learn how to code and then they just start clicking apply. You know, one of those people that just they're just doing this all day long. They're just clicking, and then a week later, they're upset. Leon, I applied to 400 jobs. I didn't hear anything back. You did the process wrong. So on Tuesday, we talked about how to do the process right and all the little things that you can do to open the doors, right? Now, like I said, I'm going to show you how to play the games. It's up to you to play them. I showed you a lot of different doors to open. It's up to you to figure out if you want to open each and every single one of them. But if you open them, the opportunities will start coming your way. And when the opportunity presents itself, we're going to be prepared. And tonight's class is about being prepared. When you see those referrals come through, you get the interviews. How do we pass that first sniff test? How do we get to the engineers? And how do we satisfy their 2 most important questions? Can this person code? And do I want to work with them for the next 2 years? I'm going to show you how to slam dunk both of those questions so that you get the offer. Zim joining from Zimbabwe. Hey, that's what's up. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. All right. I'm excited. We're going to talk about that professional checklist, the things that are on it, just to make sure we're all on the same page. We're going to talk briefly about the hit list again, because I honestly believe the hit list is the most important thing you could ever do to get a job. Hands down, most important thing. Then we're going to talk about the interview process. Like, what does it actually look like? What does it actually look like to go through the process, like from referral to offer? What does that whole process look like? What are some of the things you should expect? And then we're going to learn the 2 secrets to knocking these interviews out the park. It's CAR and prep, folks. If you master CAR and prep, you will do well in your interviews, and it's something you can start practicing today. And in fact, your homework is to start practicing it. Cool. Alrighty, folks. Always like to start off with answering some questions. And so my question of the day, before I answer y'all's questions, my question of the day was, how many folks did you endorse on LinkedIn? How many folks? Because I added all of y'all to the LinkedIn group. Too many, 100 plus, 79, 5, 10, 15, 25, 8, 20, so many. Come on now. I don't think that's enough. I don't. I need you to do another round, folks. I need you to do more. I need you to find 5 random folks to endorse, please. Because I added y'all to the LinkedIn. I added 1,000 plus of y'all yesterday. So y'all in there. And I did it about like an hour ago. I added more folks. Now remember, I said if you didn't have a picture and you didn't have your profile filled out, I wasn't going to add you. So if you got denied, fix those things and try again, and I'll add you on the second time. We inside, exactly. All right. The link is in the slides again. You can also do ! LinkedIn if you haven't joined our LinkedIn group yet. It's a great place. We're going to be using it throughout the rest of the program. You need to be in that LinkedIn group so we can do the things that we do, like endorsing each other and all the other kind of special things we have up to just get that ball rolling, folks. Remember, there's an algorithm to be played here, right? And so we're doing these little things that are going to increase our algorithmic chances of recruiters reaching out to us. And this is one of the first ones. Cool. You got questions? Because I got answers. As a UX UI design junior, can I join the community? Yes, but you can no longer refer to yourself as junior. If you want to join this community, we don't use those words around here. You're either a UX developer or you're not. We don't like that word around these parts. Why are there so many recruiters prowling lately? I'm telling you, if you do all these little things we talked about on Tuesday, you start to get that inbound interest. There's a game to be played, folks, and most people don't know how to play the game. They don't know what they're doing. They go into this process like an accident. But the more you do the things we talked about on Tuesday, the more interest you get. And then we're going to show you how to capitalize on that interest tonight. This is probably the worst part of being a developer, the recruiter spam. So I agree, but here's what you do. You have a canned response, right? I have a canned recruiter response. Hey, I'm not currently looking for new opportunities, but here are the things that would make me be interested. I list the salary that would make me move. I list the tools and technology I want to work on and the space that I'm interested in. If you ain't paying me big bucks and it's not focused on education, that's it. This is where this conversation stops, right? But if you do hit all these boxes, woo, send me an email, please. So having those canned responses for the recruiter spam can be really helpful. Someone from Google recommended not to put a headshot because companies don't want to be biased. Yeah, don't put a, so remember, some advice is US specific. Is different in some countries. In the US, don't put a photo on your resume. Some recruiters are instructed to immediately throw those resumes in the trash can because they don't want to get into some sort of legal kerfuffle because of the way you look, right? And so the advice in the US is not to put it on your resume. Now, some countries, that's like a huge you must have. Like there are some countries where if you don't have your photo on the resume, it ain't gonna work. So it's gonna be on you to know kind of what is the acceptable standard in your area. How should we use the resume now, even though we haven't built the 100 hours project, the other 2 big projects that are provided? Well, you still have some other projects that you've built throughout program. You might have already got your client, your freelancing, or your volunteering, or your contributing to free software. All those go on the resume to start pumping it up. And any of the projects that you did work on, talk about them in a beautiful way. Every single person that did the HTML and CSS class, they have built a project for a hair salon or barber. They've built a project for a restaurant. For now, those can be on your resume as the filler until we get to the more meatier projects. Yeah, a lot of Asian companies require the photo. That's what I've heard, yeah. How can you be sure it's a legit recruiter and not a scammer? I don't send anything until I've done my, like, I send my canned response. If it goes further, you got to do your research. You got to dig into the company. You got to make sure that the emails match up. We'll talk about that in the future. I had a potential client and she asked, what was my ballpark? Because she has no idea. I tried asking her ballpark. She has no idea. How can I approach the money talk? You throw out a big number, and if they react to it, then you're fine. So we talking 100K then? And they'll go, heck no, not 100K. And then they'll go, oh, so like what's reasonable to you? That's it. Everybody has a ballpark number. Mm-hmm. Should we add recruiters to the hit list? Yes, but remember the hierarchy is like the hiring person or the hiring manager, engineers, and then recruiters. You're trying to look for all 3 when you're adding a company to your hit list. So if we're going for 60 networked applications, you're going to have probably at least 180 people on that hit list. Photo in your portfolio is fine. Yeah, photos on portfolios are pretty common. Yeah. Cool. Do you have a hit list doc? Yeah, we have it. It's the, you can do ! sheet. How would I know if my idea for my 100 hours project is too involved? Well, you take your 100 hours project and you boil it down to the simplest thing you can do for that project. So any project can be boiled down into doing one thing. Do that one thing and then add features as you have time within that 100 hours. So really, you could have any idea in the world and you can boil that idea down to the simplest, easiest thing to do for that one idea. See if there's a way to accomplish that, and then that's what you do. And then as you have more 100 hours, you add on to it. Can the 100 hours project be a game? I highly recommend that you don't use games for your 100 hours project. They need to be full stack web applications. Games have too much of a smell to them. So yeah, full stack web applications are what the 100 hours project should be. User logins, they're doing something. Yeah. Now those doesn't mean you can't build a game like that. That's on you. Have fun with it. But for the 100 hours project, it's a full stack web application because that's what people are going to hire you to do. Cool. Alrighty, folks. We got some questions in. Let's jump on into it. How do we make a user login? We're not there yet. We haven't gotten to the back end yet. Cool. All right, folks. Thank you for the questions. I think we got the whole crew. Let's keep pushing. All right. If you haven't checked in yet, please go ahead and check in. There was a tweet today. Go ahead and like and retweet, please. If you do !check in, that'll give you the link to the tweet. You can go there, like and retweet, please. Remember, that's how we take attendance. If you want to do all the goodies that we do at the end of program, we need to make sure that you are here for class. So go ahead and like and retweet, please. Also, let's folks find us. We've been having so many new folks in chat. I've seen at least 20 new folks today in chat, which is wild. So it's working. Folks are finding us and not spending 20 grand on a boot camp, and I love it. Alrighty. Thank you for checking in. YouTube. I'm up to date on YouTube, folks. Let's go. Turn up. 10 seconds. 9, 8. This is your warning. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just a little one. Just a little one. I'm caught up on YouTube. I know a lot of folks that follow us here at 100 Devs can't join us live. I totally understand that. That's why we have the catch-up crew. And the catch-up crew, it sucks when you have to watch them on the VODs on Twitch, because the VODs on Twitch have ads, but the YouTube channel is not monetized. So you can watch all of our glorious class videos ad-free, baby. And so we're caught up to speed. Last Tuesday's class is on YouTube. So if you're watching us on YouTube, what's up? Hope you're doing well. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It does help more folks find us. I appreciate y'all. Boom. All right. No class Friday. I'm going to push our car class to next Friday. I need a little bit more time to prep for Sunday, because Sunday is our super review. So no car class tomorrow. We're going to push that to next Friday. And Sunday is going to be our review. We're going to go hard in the paint on Sunday. So I need a little bit more time to prep like examples and stuff like that. And so if you want to review from the beginning to now in terms of JavaScript and preparation for the back end, well, that's what Sunday super review is for. No idea how long it's going to go. We go until until we hit the end. I try really hard to plan out each class to hit that 3-hour mark, but these super reviews, there's no way for me to estimate how long we go. So sometimes it goes 3, 5, 7. We did a 9-hour one last time. We go until we go. So if you want to review all the JavaScripts before we hit back end, that's what Sunday is for. Alrighty, folks. Remember, you have a fresh start. If you're catching up, you were behind, you missed a few homeworks, you missed a few check-ins, now is your fresh, squeaky clean start, meaning that you can start checking in starting now. You can start submitting your homework starting now, and we're all good in my book. Fresh start. Cool. Next week, we're hitting up the back end. So if you're excited to get into back-end web development, you're excited to learn Node, that's what we hit all of next week. So join us on the super review on Sunday. That way you're ready and prepared for back-end next week. All right. Remember, networking started this week. Remember, we're opening all these doors, folks. Opening all these doors so opportunity can come our way. Our networking picks back up. One coffee chat this week, please. We're going to pick back up the steam. We're going to get back to our normal networking level. But this week, one coffee chat, please. Remember, client deadline, Tuesday, May 17th. If you haven't gotten a paid client, that's your deadline. If you haven't volunteered, that's your deadline to get that volunteer contract or contribute to free software. You got a fresh start, folks. Got a fresh start. Bring it across the finish line. Do you need to be proficient in JS before moving to the back end? Proficient's a weird word. I think you need to know some JavaScript. We want to be comfortable with it. But if you've been here with Clash, you're comfortable enough. As we continue on Node, we'll keep working on our JavaScript skills. If you're doing your code wars every day, you're doing your Anki every day, that's more than enough to jump into the back end. People always think the back end is super, super difficult. It's not. And I know it's really weird to say. It's not really learning things that are difficult. It's about connecting. The back end is really just like a really messy maze. And once you know how to connect all the dots through the maze, that's all it is. And so we have a lot of folks that get really anxious about the back end. And then 2 weeks in, they're like, wait a minute, I can build full stack web applications. It's only been a few weeks. Yes, that will be you. Of course, you can always go super, 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 super deep into it. But the basics that we'll cover in the beginning, you can pick up pretty quickly. Yeah, I think there are some folks that really do think the back end is easier. Yeah, I agree with you, Threx. Cool. We need inspiration for the 100 hours project. That's on you. You got to pick something that you're passionate about, something that you want to bring into this world. I can't give you ideas for your 100 hours project because you won't want to do them. My 100 hours ideas are all around Pokemon and chess. I don't know if that's what you're into, so I don't know if that would help you, right? And yeah, there you go, and cookies. Mine are all cookies, Pokemon, and chess related ideas. Can't help you unless that's your interest, right? And so you want to pick something you're excited about, something you're passionate about. And if not, Divker had one of my favorite bits of advice. Divker said, if you can't find something you're passionate about, find something you hate and fix it, right? So find something you hate could also be a a good way to focus your 100 hours project. All right. Remember, spaced repetition is key, folks. We added a lot of stuff onto your plate on Tuesday and a lot of little things that you have to start remembering and putting into practice daily. So if you're not doing your spaced repetition, you're not using your Anki, this is the time that it becomes super, super important, especially as we get to the bank today, especially as we get to our behavioral and technical questions today. You gotta be using your Anki on a day-to-day basis. Every day, I need you to do two things. I need you to review your Anki, and I need you to do a Code Wars every single day. Every single day. If you're saying, Leon, I want to get a job at the end, well, I'm telling you what it takes, and it's the Anki and a Code Wars a day gets the jobs to stay. Boom. I'm sorry to say, but spaced repetition is not enough. Check out some random YouTuber. BS. I've helped thousands of people learn how to code. I've helped hundreds of folks get jobs, and they did it through spaced repetition. Yes, there are some learning techniques that can help and can jumpstart your learning, that can help you remember things for the long run. But we're talking about in a short period of time doing the things that we can do to open the doors and help people get jobs. I don't trust it. I trust what I know have worked for hundreds of people that have helped thousands of my students learn how to code. This is the shit. This is it. This is it. I can't live anybody else's experience except for my own. And when all my students come back to me and they say, Leon, thank you for making me do Anki. Thank you for making me do spaced repetition. When I was in interviews and I was confident, when I was in interviews, right? When I was in interviews and the ideas were coming back to my brain, when I was in my behavioral interviews and things were coming out smooth and like butter, I know it was because of Anki. So when I have students from all over the world telling me that it helps and is what has helped them get the jobs, that's what I'm going with. I ain't listening to some random person. Alrighty, folks. Stream team. We have a lot of new folks on the stream team. Please make sure that you are taking a peek at that stream team channel we have under the 100 dev section. We have a lot of folks, right? We have a lot of folks that could benefit from being in these streams, whether you're co-working, you're getting some review, you're getting some follow-up, right? The stream team's been putting in work. And if you would like to join us, give us your contact information in this form, start streaming a little bit, start posting in the self promo. We'd love to have you. All right, folks. Told you on Tuesday that you had a decision to make. Fox saying one of us. Told you on Tuesday that we had a decision to make, right? Right now, there is a window that is open. I have no idea how long that window will be open for. It's a window that I've helped hundreds of folks get through. And on the other side of that window is a career that is well paid, that is typically with phenomenal benefits, even things you can't think of. Some of these offices have slides in the office, like what? Good benefits, well paid, consistently, year after year, one of the happiest careers, something that's high growth that you can invest in for the rest of your working days. And you don't need a degree. You can learn it for free. You got to make a decision. There's only ever been one thing I've noticed between a student that got a job and the student that didn't. And they all made that decision that says, you know what? I know that the trough of sorrow is long and hard and difficult, but I do not give a fuck. I am going to get through it because I want this. And once they make that decision and they honestly make it, like I see the fire in their eyes, they honestly make it, things are different. Things are different. The Anki gets a little bit easier. The code wars get a little bit easier. When you have that prize in mind, when you say, you know what, I do not care if today I don't feel good at this. When I don't care if tomorrow I don't feel good at this. When in a month I still don't feel good at this, but you know what, I want this. This is something I want for myself. This is something I want for my family, to know that when I have these skills, I can put food on the table. I can have a happy career. When you make that decision, life's a little different. So I don't need you to make it right now, but I hope this weekend you figure out if you really want this, like honestly, not kind of want it, but really want it. And if you really want it, don't go into your next week like an accident. Because if you really want it, you would plan out your week. If you really wanted it, you plan out your week. You figure out what you're going to get done that week. You figure out what you're going to get done each day. You would figure out how to make time for the Anki and the code wars, because we don't all have the same privilege when it comes to time. But with the time that you do have, how are you using it? How are you planning out your week so that it's not an accident? So you can open all these doors that are going to make the thing that you want a reality. So I can't make that decision for you. I can highlight a path. I can show you what's worked for hundreds of my students. And the thing I always tell you, don't listen to me. Don't ever listen to some random dude on the internet that's trying to pitch you on a vision or a dream, because that's how you get got. Go look in our celebrations channel on Discord. Go look at our celebrations channel on Discord. Look at the hundreds of people that have gotten jobs. Don't listen to me. Go look at the pin post. I can only pin 50 of them. They won't let me pin any more down, right? Go look at the 50 that I pinned, and then look at all the other ones in that channel. Look at the people that share on Twitter. Hundreds of folks that have gotten jobs thanks to the community that we've built. I saw something that I was really excited about today. Somebody that was from 100 devs that got a job. I don't have their permission to, I don't want to put them on blast because I haven't talked to them yet, but I'm going to talk to them and maybe I can share what it is. That they were talking about themselves, and they said something that made me feel really good inside. They said that, like how you can say that you're self-taught. They had that they were community taught, right? They came to 100 devs. They learned, they worked with this community, and they were community taught. I love that. That's one of the best things I've ever heard. And so you don't have to listen to me. Go listen to the members of our stream team. Go listen to our alumni. Go in that celebrations channel and see all the folks that have followed this path and have gotten phenomenal jobs. There's an opportunity, folks. There's a window open, and you got to make a decision. Because the next few months, I'm going to be honest, they're going to be hard. And not so much the learning. The learning, yes, will always be a little bit difficult, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of little things that we have to do to open as many doors as possible. And I know some people get really stressed at this point in time, but here's the deal. You don't have to open all the doors. It's weird, I know. You don't have to open all the doors, but you have to open enough of them for the opportunities to come your way. Not everyone has the same privilege when it comes to time. Not everyone has the same privilege when it comes to their loquaciousness. Not everyone has the same privilege of time when it comes to interacting with other human beings. So you have to open as many doors as possible. Doors that feel good and are conducive to who you are, so you can have those opportunities come through. Not every door might be open. If you can open all of them, great. Kudos to you. But you got to figure out which ones you can, and then over the next few months, work as hard as you can to open them. So I don't want to hear, Leon, you know what? I just don't talk to humans too good. Great. There's so many other things on this professional checklist that has nothing to do with talking to humans. You better have the best blurb I've ever seen. You better have the best portfolio I've ever seen. You better have the best resume I've ever seen. The best GitHub that has GIFs all the way through. Twitter on point, LinkedIn on point, endorsements out the wazoo, an angel list that is a cover letter that's for each company, cover emails for each company. You better be using Grammarly to make sure that, like, come on. None of this, I'm not good at this one part. There's too many things here. It's a full list. Thank you, Stephanie. It's a full list. There's too much here for you to focus on one thing. Nuh-uh. We don't play that here no more. There's dozens of doors to be open. It's up to you to open them. Cool. All right. While I have this open, yeah, somebody said Grammarly is a game changer. So one thing that I do, right? One thing that I do is I have a profile for each of like my different things that I do. So like I have a profile for like my personal stuff. I have a profile for 100 devs, a profile for RC, a profile for a bunch of different things, like Chrome profiles. And that's why I can do sketchy stuff like this and feel really comfortable at the end of the day, right? Because I only use this profile for RC and teaching, right? But I have different profiles for different stuff. And the cool thing about having different profiles is that you can have different plugins or extensions for each of those profiles, right? I can have different extensions for each of those profiles. So I don't like Grammarly running on my personal stuff, because what Grammarly does is it reads all the things that you type and makes you sound better, makes you sound more professional, gets rid of your grammatical errors, right? And so I don't want that running on like my personal stuff, but on my professional stuff, hell yeah, Grammarly, do your thing, right? And so I recommend having a profile for the hunt, like a Chrome profile just for the hunt, where it's super focused on all the stuff you're going to need for the hunt, including doing things like installing Grammarly so that you can ideally fix your poor grammar. Because no matter how good you think you are at writing, we sometimes just don't write too good, and it can help you catch stuff, right? So having different profiles specifically for the hunt can be a pretty good idea here. Cool. All right, folks. Like I said, doors open, up to you to make that decision. When you make the decision, I'm here for you. We're gonna see this thing to the end. We're gonna make sure that if you want to put in the work, there's a pathway to do it. We're gonna get those jobs. And like I said, don't ever listen to just me. Don't ever listen to some other YouTuber. Don't ever listen to some random person on Twitter. Always look for the proof. Always talk to the folks that went through the experience. And I'm telling you, just go in that celebrations and channel and see who folks who did it. All right. I mentioned this on Tuesday. I knew it. I knew it. Like I said, I'm going to show you how to play the game. It's up to you if you want to play it, because people hate this shit. People get angry. Some nerds get angry. I get some emails. I get some tweets. Nerds be mad. That's all I'm going to say. Read it. I don't know that, like, what I'll do is maybe on Sunday as like a fun thing, I'll read out the stuff that I got that was pretty spicy. I'm just at the point where I am personally just trying to ignore people. Like, not like ignore, but like I always like, I'm just not going to feed into it, right? You know, just for my own, like, you know, my own like sanity, but like, you know, I'm not going to feed into it. So I'm just going to let it wave over, but I'm just going to let you know, people get real mad. I read one of the emails out on stream last time. People get real mad about this stuff. And guess what? I got some stuff tonight. I know I'm getting emails on. Like, I know I'm getting an email. Leon, you can't do that. You can't tell them to do that. Nah, go fuck yourself and take your gate with you. Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? All right. We're going to make them angry tonight. And I'm going to be happy about it. I'm gonna be real happy about it. They're gonna get angry. I'm gonna get some emails. I'm gonna get some tweets. I might get a few LinkedIn messages. I don't check those though, so you can send them to LinkedIn all you want. I'm gonna get some DMs on Discord, which I don't read either. They gonna get angry tonight. That's for sure. I know it. The reason why people say this is one of the best classes is because I'm giving the secrets tonight, folks. Giving the secrets away. People that went through a 4-year CS program and didn't know all this stuff, and they floundered for a year, didn't get a job, and then somebody that comes out of a free boot camp making more money to them, they get mad. They get angry. They big mad. You know what I'm saying? So I can't hate them on it either. Minus said, as of 5/23, I'm officially a software engineer, finally making over 100K. Thank you for changing my life. Let's go. Minus, that's huge. Congratulations. Let's go. All right, come on now. 10-second warning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Let's go. Congrats, Mike. Over 100K. Let's go. Hey, and we had a lot of folks recently too. Minus, congratulations, that's huge. 6 figures in the bank. I'll take it all day. We had a lot of other folks recently too, so I gotta do better about putting the congratulations in the slides. I'll work on that. But we had a lot of folks coming through. Some folks getting some big freelancing checks too. That's wild. Congratulations. Like I said, folks, don't listen to me. Go listen to Minus. All right. If you haven't already, I need you to live and breathe this checklist over the next couple of days. I assigned it for homework. I assigned it for homework again. And guess what? I assigned it for homework again because it's important. I didn't just tell you to do stuff. I gave you a checklist for the things that I need you to do. Real examples. You can't say, Leon, I don't know what a portfolio looks like. Boom. This portfolio got somebody a job straight out of a boot camp into a FANG company. One of my past students. Leon, I don't know what goes in a resume. Boom. Example. Template. Boom, boom, boom. Template. Example. There you go. Can't say nothing. Leon, I don't know what to put on my LinkedIn angel list. Boom. Checklist. Go through it. Right? So please make sure you work yourself through this checklist. It has all the things that you need. It has good examples for you to follow. And the cool thing is if you join the LinkedIn group, you'll see other folks that are doing the same thing. You can all work together. If you have questions, you can post on Discord or have other folks take a peek too. Like work together on this community. All right, come on now. Not self-study, community study. Let's go. All right. So we got the checklist. You can always do ! checklist. Victor A, welcome. You can always do ! checklist here in chat if you need it. You'll sometimes see me before class going, I need that form, and I'll just come in and I'll use the commands here in chat because I don't have the links. Is there such a thing as too many LinkedIn endorsements? Nah. No one's ever going to be like, oh, this person has too many people that think they're good at Node. Nobody's like, I don't know. Too many people think that he's good at React. Too many folks think that Leon's just balling out over here with the JavaScripts, right? Nah. a little too good at React, if you ask me. Cool. All right. Now we talked on Tuesday about passing the sniff test. Ooh. Talk about passing this sniff test. People don't like this. People get upset when I say you have a smell, but you really do. And what you have to realize is that there are some things we can do to get past this original sniff. And if you do these things right, you can get to the technical interviews where your engineering experience, the things that you've built, the things that you can do can really shine out. But most folks never make it to that stage because they do all the things we talked about on Tuesday incorrectly, or more importantly, they just don't do them at all. And so we really have to do everything we can do to get past this original sniff test and eventually get to the point where our technical knowledge can be the thing that seals the deal on the job. Okay. Now, once you get past that original sniff test and you get to the engineers, it comes down to two things. Can you code? And do I want to work with you for the next 2 years? So tonight, I'm going to show you 2 techniques that have helped my students dominate this part of the process. 360 slam dunk all over these interviews. One is called CAR. The other is called prep. And then I threw in a third called EU. If you can master CAR, EU, and prep, you will be a lean, mean interviewing machine. And when you pair that with networking and getting referred into 60 organizations, you get jobs. Cool. All right. So just quickly to review real quick, how do we get past that first sniff test? Gozy, welcome. How do we get past that first sniff test? Well, we've built out our online presence. Our Twitter's popping. We followed 50 engineers like I asked you to do on Tuesday. Please tell me you started to find your engineers, right? It's kind of hard to find them in the beginning, but look for hashtags from your area for your city, right? If you know that you're going for remote jobs, try and find some remote hashtags where you can follow 50 engineers that you can really start to interact with, right? Getting used to that interaction with other engineers, starting to build that pipeline of folks you might reach out to when it comes time to get really into the hunt, right? I forgot. Hey, this is your reminder. I got you, Jasmine. That's why we do our review, right? That's why we do our review. Follow each other. That's good, but other 100 devs folks don't count. You're just all from Chicago following each other, and nobody's talking to other engineers. Yeah, make sure that they're engineers that are in the space that are from your area, that you could eventually be warm leads for some of these introductions. My Twitter is so basic, I don't have anything to say. Me too. I feel the exact same way. I just don't feel like what I have to say is worth putting out there. I just don't like. I put all my stuff into like Twitch. I feel okay, but I just don't. I don't know. Tweet just never made a thing. I just it's not in me to put tweets out there. I don't know what it is. I've tried hard. I understand I'm losing out in the content game, but I don't know. I can't do it. But what I can do is interact. Right. I love interacting with people's stuff. I like having a good list of folks that I really enjoy their content. I like it. I interact with it. I retweet it. I'll leave comments on things that they're talking about. Like that to me is how I do Twitter. I'm not really kind of like making Twitter threads and sharing my soul. It's just, this is not something I feel comfortable with. Right. Just not something I feel comfortable with. So what I do is I use it as an interaction, right? Interaction is the only thing that matters on Twitter anyway. Right. Yeah. Like I said, you find those 50, you like, retweet, you go from acquaintances to people that they're going to like you. Somebody has 300 followers. They're an engineer at a company in your town and you're liking their stuff. You're leaving good comments. You're interacting with them. They're going to like you and they're going to talk to you. They're going to give you a coffee chat. It could lead to a referral. That's why we do these 50. It really does help get you used to interacting with other engineers. That's something that's a little asynchronous. It's at your own pace. It can help you start warming up to this networking idea. So I really do like this pattern first, especially if you're somebody that's really nervous about the networking portion or the talking to humans portion. That's where Twitter can be a big tool for you. It can really help you kind of grease the wheels and get comfortable engaging with folks in a way that seems a little lower risk, right? I can like and retweet, right? That's something I think I can do. if I go by a nickname, what should I do for LinkedIn? You can go by a moniker. Like you can always use a nickname. Yeah, I think that's totally fine. As long as that's what you go by professionally. Also, every cohort, I have some folks that can't use their real name. They use the name that they've chosen, right? And so for some reason, there's a security reason they can't use their real name or things like that. That's totally okay. You can use a moniker. A lot of developers go by monikers that are not their actual real name. You can use that across all your profiles. If you don't feel comfortable, like if there's a danger to you using a real photo, you can use, I see folks that do kind of cartoonerized versions of their photos, Bitmoji type things, do things that are going to make you safe and secure above kind of like putting your name everywhere, right? So if there are those things you're dealing with, that's okay to do it. We've had folks do that last cohort and still were successful. You might just have to explain a thing or two when you get to the offer stage at a company. And that's all. And that's an easy conversation to have, or easy once you practice it. Cool. Shout out to Cassie Do for having the best moniker. Yeah, for real, right? What if the engineer only posts non-tech stuff? That's fine. That's good. Cool. Would you recommend a business name? Not really. You don't want to go by your business name as you're like interacting with these folks. And the other thing too is that most employers are going to Google you by doing all these things and using the same name. And you connect your Twitter to your LinkedIn to your Angel List. You connect your portfolio. Like once you start connecting all these things with the same name, Google starts to rank that name higher. And so when you're in these interviews, and you're trying to get past that sniff test, you'll rank higher and people will be able to find you a little bit easier. I had a cartoon over my GitHub and LinkedIn, still got a job in tech. Yeah, like as long as you're being consistent, is not something that's too wild, like you'll be fine. Definitely that picture of yourself is best, but not everyone has that privilege. Electra's Code. Hey, thank you for the 5 good subs. Thank you for being here. Cool. If you have not yet, you should join our 100 devs group. I'm asking you to join the 100 devs group. I'm asking you to connect with at least 5 individuals from that group randomly, and then endorse them for JavaScript, Node, and React, please. That's how we get the algorithm going, folks. We get the train moving by doing this. I added like 1,000+ people over the last day or so. And so if you haven't done that yet, join the group. I'll add you after class. My LinkedIn picture that was 12 years old now, doesn't really matter. I think mine's about the same. I think mine's about 12 years old too. Yeah. Doubled my endorsements. Let's go. Hey, Tony Stark, that's awesome. Cool. What do I do if I got locked out of my LinkedIn? Give it a little bit of time and try again. Cool. Alrighty. Remember, we're committing to pushing our code every day. We're doing a code war every day, but we're also pushing our code every day. And the reason why we are pushing our code every single day is because recruiters love those green squares. Got more endorsements now than I did 10 years in my previous industry. Hey, Cindy, I love to hear that. Recruiters love their green squares. They do it. They do, right? And so you should be doing your code wars every day, and then you should be pushing that code wars to GitHub. If you're saying, Leon, I don't know how to push my code wars to GitHub, go and watch our Git review class. It's a VOD here on Twitch. Watch that class. We literally show you how to create the repo, add your code, and push it to GitHub. Get those green squares. It really does help if a recruiter chooses to look at your GitHub. Show us how to hack green squares. Hello, it's Rufio, who led the raid here today. They have a stream. They have a VOD where they walk through how to backfill your green squares. Just saying. Rufio, if you can if you could send me the link to that VOD, or if you put it on YouTube or something, send me that, and I'll send it out with the follow-up message to class, or our class on Tuesday, if you're still here. You know. That way more folks can find it. Cool. All right. And we're doing all these things because we don't want to be one of these people that apply to 400 applications with no luck. Now, we said the most important thing that we're going to do, we're going to talk about the most important thing that we had to do, and then we're going to move into our break. And when we come back from break, I'm showing you the 2 most important things you're going to need to get through your technical interviews. But before we get there, I said the most important thing you're going to need to get the interviews is your hit list. This hit list is probably the most important thing you'll do for your career. At least for all my students that have gotten amazing jobs, the thing that helped them get the jobs was this hit list. The hit list is the idea. You can use the sheet. If you use the sheet, you'll see that there is this lovely hit list tab where you can put the companies that you're interested to have a role that's a good fit for you and your point of contacts at that company. This is not something you have to be a beast at yet. This is not something you have to be good at yet. We're going to have a whole class on just building out your hit list. That's right, folks. You heard me say it right. A whole class just on building out your hit list. I know there's some things you're kind of like, Leon, I don't know how to really go about it. Don't worry. We're going to have full classes on a lot of this stuff. One of them is our hit list, but doesn't mean you can't start trying now. And so with your hit list, you use that sheet. You're going to find 60 companies, ideally locally to you. Or if you're going remote, you got to find those companies that'll hire you remotely, right? 60 companies that you're going to network your way into. Then you're going to find the hiring manager at those companies. You're going to find the engineers on the team at that company. You're going to find the recruiters at that company. And there's a process to doing this. You can follow them on Twitter. You can find their emails using Hunter.io. You can find them on Angelus. You can find them on LinkedIn, right? There's a process to this, but you need to find them and you need to add them to your hit list and then start engaging with them. Try and get a coffee chat. Try and get on their radar. Provide some value so that we can eventually get the referral. Cool. Remember, we said no longer. We're not going to reach out to the mamas anymore. We've deemed that not the right thing to do. So no mama this time, but definitely hiring manager, engineer in the team, recruiter. Cool. And the name of the game, folks, is never, ever, 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 ever. Hey, does this work? Ever, 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 ever. Ever, 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 ever.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
Ever, ever. Click apply. Never, ever, just click apply. Now, somebody's gonna be like, Leon, but my cousin's uncle's brother's best friend twice removed, they just clicked apply and they got a job. Great. That's good to know. I'm glad it worked for them. Remember, everything we're doing throughout this process is to open as many doors as possible, right? To open as many doors as possible. You could skip out on some of these things. That's okay. But you're not opening that door. And so all of this is about opening doors. The more the things we do, the more doors that open. This is one of the bigger ones. Just clicking apply really doesn't work because you're going up against folks that were referred and recommended. So if you're not getting that referral, not getting that recommended, it's going to be harder, especially if you're coming from a non-traditional background. Right? If you're coming from a non-traditional background and you're just clicking apply and you're going up against folks that have a 4-year CS degree and an internship returning to their belt, it's just not going to work out. So never, ever just click apply. That's a good way to get your resume balled up and thrown in the trash can. Cool. We committed to this idea that, all right, we're going to network our way into 60 applications. We're going to get 60 referrals. 30 of them are going to be high value applications where we do custom resumes, a custom story about why we're interviewing. We're going to have 10 premium applications where we do all the other stuff. Plus we're tweeting about the company. We're making maybe a blog post about the area in which that company operates. Maybe we build a little 1 to 2 day project that shows that we can build stuff that's in the realm of that company. We're going to talk through how to do all this. Don't worry. But that means you have 30 high value, 10 premium, and like 20 that are just normal referred applications. You do your 21st, right? The 21st where everything goes wrong. You find your footing. You find out what works, what doesn't work. You find out where your weaknesses are when it comes to interviewing. Everyone has a weakness when it comes to interviewing. The goal is to find out what that thing is so you can fix it. So we do that with our 20 that are just fodder. Then we focus on our 30 and we wrap up with our premium. So by the time you get to your premium, you've been a lean, mean interviewing machine for a while. Welcome, King. Cool. You're also committing to do a 100 hours project. The 100 hours project is one of the most important things you'll do throughout this program, where you will sink 100 hours into building an application that is a full stack web application. When you go into interviews, it's a project you can show. This is what I built. This is what I can do. It ties your story to why you're an engineer now. We'll talk a little bit more about that for sure in the coming weeks. And due next week, I want a description of your 100 hours project and a very, very simple wireframe, just a very simple drawing of what your project's going to look like. If you want to get fancy and use free tools like Wireframe CC or Figma, go for it. But you can even just draw it and take a photo of it. I don't really care. When do we physically start on a 100 hours project? Tonight, because you're going to start thinking about what it's going to be. And I want an idea next week. Cool. All right. Now, we mentioned that this is a lot, but the folks that commit to this process, when that switch flips in their brain, it's something that they want, so they're going to do what it takes. This is how you get jobs, folks. This is how you get jobs. You do this process, you do these things, you open these doors. This is what has continually helped my students get jobs. Cool. All right, folks, we're at the top of the hour. Let's go ahead and take our break. If you're new around here, so many new folks, welcome. Glad to have you. Glad you feel free to join. We have a 30-week software engineering bootcamp. Everything you need to go from never having touched code before to employable. But around here, we like to be healthy. Learning to code is a marathon, not a sprint. You can't thug it out. We're going to take our breaks. And so we're going to put 5 minutes on the clock. If you're able, please get up, move around, hydrate. Let your eyes focus on something that's not the screen. And we'll be back in 5. All right, folks, come on back. Don't let these jazzy tunes drift you away. We got some work to get into. Or do we? Alrighty, folks, come on back. Let's get into this. Eisenberg, welcome. Congrats on getting to class 2. Awesome. Glad to have you. Alrighty. So we talked about everything we need to do to get interviews, but tonight we got to spend some time learning how to do the interviews. And my goal is to maybe, end a little early so you have some time to think about your 100 hours project. Maybe start thinking through some of these car and prep things on your own. So we're going to try and get there. All right. So we've done everything to open as many doors as possible. We got some inbound interest coming. We got some hit list building that we've done, right? We got some hit list things that we've done. And so now we need to talk about interviewing and the actual interviewing process. So there is a process to interviewing. Now, every company is different, right? Every company is different, right? Every company is different. And what we have to realize is that this is a general overview, but each company might use some of this, it might use all of it, they might use none of it. But generally, after I've seen hundreds, if not thousands of different companies through my time at RC, this is kind of the process that I've come across, right? And so typically there is kind of 3 points to kicking off the interview process. You applied to a job, you got recruited for a job, and you got recommended for a job. Applying is definitely the worst. Recruited means that anything could have happened, like a recruiter reached out to you, a recruiter might have found you on LinkedIn or something like that. And then the third and the most important, and why it's highlighted, is you got recommended for a job. When you get recommended, like we all are going to, you can sometimes skip a few steps in the process. I have seen when some love the disdain for applying. Yes, thank you. I have seen when some folks get recommended that they will literally skip a phone screen, they will literally skip a behavioral, and they'll go right to the technical portion of the interview. So that's why recommendations can be so powerful. Not only do you actually get an interview, but in a lot of companies, you can skip some of the first rounds of the interview, which is pretty powerful. And so let's say that it's not a company that skips around. You get your recommendation into the company. There are some steps that you might go through in a normal interview process. Typically these days, there is a phone screen where you're going to work with a recruiter. The phone screen is just a fancy word for what? Just a fancy word for what? What do you think the phone screen is? It's just a fancy word for the sniff test, right? Are you a person, right? Are you a person that should be wasting our engineering manager's time or not, right? It is the sniff test. They're going to figure out what your background is. They're going to figure out if you're a good fit for the role. All the phone screen really is just a sniff test, right? If you get past that original sniff test, you'll typically be plopped into a behavioral interview. Don't worry, we're going to go through like all the things you have to prepare. But the behavioral interview is kind of like the normal interviews that you might be aware of, like the tell me about your greatest strength, tell me about your greatest weakness, like those types of questions that we just so happen. What? Leon, you need to tell me that there are 22 behavioral questions that I can prepare that are on these magical list of questions that you prepared for us? Yes, that is true. There are 22 behavioral questions that you can prepare for. Huh. Interesting. Cool. So you have the behavioral question where it's not really any technical questions. but it's questions about who you are, what you've done, what you've built, and why you might be a good fit for the role. If you get through the behavioral, then you kind of get to the technical portion of the interview. And this is where it's kind of different in every company. And it's also very different as we're coming out of the tail end of the pandemic. I'm starting to see more in-person interviews again, but the bulk are still remote, which is pretty awesome. But there's kind of a mix of what can happen here. Sometimes you'll get asked technical questions. So you'll have some questions where you'll sit down with an engineer on the team. They'll ask you about your projects, things that you've built. They'll ask you about kind of just your general knowledge. You'll talk about JavaScript. You'll talk about, I don't know, we'll talk about some of the nitty gritty bits of JavaScript that we'll learn about when we get to Node, right? And so they're just trying to assess where you are technically, but it's more conversational. You could also have a take home. A take home is where they give you a problem to work on, anywhere from an hour to a day. Like I've seen, that's kind of the range, like normally an hour to 3 hour problem that you could work on. Typically they give you some documentation and there's a pretty clear end goal. You write your code, you submit it. There could also be a whiteboarding session where you whiteboard either remotely or in person, where you're given a coding challenge and you have to write out your code on the whiteboard or type it out in a text editor. And then sometimes there are in-person interviews where it can be anywhere from one interview to like 5 interviews in one day, where you meet with engineers to have conversations, where you meet with engineers to solve coding challenges together. Sometimes you'll pair program. It can really be a bunch of different stuff. But this process, like I said, it's different in every company, but that's kind of a range of what you can expect. We're going to break down today what a behavioral looks like and what you can study and how to do it. We're also going to break down how to do the technical portions and what you can study and how to do it. And then some companies do what I like to call the wine and dine interview, where they already know they want to hire you, but they want you to like meet the team. You're going to want to go out to dinner, stuff like that. And then you get an offer. Bells of Abba. Hey, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. Right. And then there's the offer stage. Once you get to the offer stage, the gloves come off. You can ask all the things that you want to know about the company. You can negotiate. We'll have a whole class on how to negotiate. But this is kind of the general process that you can expect. Are you going to break down system design? We're going to cover that when we get to more of our technical interview practice. So tonight's about kind of some things you can start putting into place today, but we're going to have whole nights where we practice this stuff together. Cool. So far I can get to behavioral, but nothing after that. That's actually a good sign. That means that your recruitment process is working well. You're getting that inbound interest. But a lot of people fumble in the behavioral, and we're going to talk about why that might be. And they just basically don't pass that sniff test. They don't ever get to the technical, or as we like to say, getting to the nerds. Yeah. Cool. Should you tell a recruiter your salary range before an interview? Hell no. Here's the magical words. I'm telling you folks, this is what I do. You ask me what I do, I get people jobs. This is what I do. If somebody asks you what your expected salary range is, you just say fair market rate for a developer of my skill set and experience. They say, oh, what are you looking for in terms of this role? Fair market rate for a developer of my skill set and experience. Leon, well, what is that number? Come on, Bob. You do this way more than I do. I know this is the 5th call you had today. I know you're going to talk to 3 more engineers tomorrow. You definitely know what fair market rate for developer my skill set experience is. And as long as we're in that ballpark, I'm okay. And then if they give you a little bit more pushback, here's how you seal the deal. They're like, Leon, no, but really, I need a number. What have you budgeted for the role? Got him. Right. So fair market rate for developer, my skill set and experience. If they push, you say, well, I mean, you do this all day. What if you budget it for the role? Boom. It's over. They got. All right. So this is the process. You'll get recommended. You may have a phone screen. You'll do behavioral, which is kind of like the normal interview type questions you might be familiar with. Then there's some technical portion. It could be a take home. It could be meeting with an engineer. It could be doing whiteboarding and solving coding challenges in person. And then you might have like a wine and dine, and then you just get an offer. What I've been seeing the most right now, like the process I've seen with maybe dozens or so companies over the past month or so, is that a lot of companies are doing a phone screen with a recruiter that's very short, a behavioral where you're meeting with one person on the team, then a take home, and then a like a whiteboarding thing, but it's digital. So you'll do like a phone screen, a behavioral, a take home, and then you'll do coding challenges with someone. And the coding challenges really haven't been like a whiteboard where you're physically drawing, like we've done a lot in the past. You're opening up like a code editor, you're sharing your screen, or you're using one of the platforms like CoderPad, and you're typing out similar to like what a Code Wars would be type problem. Yeah. Cool. All right. So that's kind of what I'm seeing right now. Like I said, most of my experience is folks in the Boston, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh area. I do work with quite a few remote folks as well. So that's what I'm seeing, but your area might be different. Cool. Now, once you get recommended, there's certain things you have to do as you go through this process. And so once you get recommended, there's one thing that I really need you to do. And that's for you to have a crystal clear picture of what the steps in the process are. Never, ever go into your interviews like an accident. Always know what you're going into. I can't tell you how many students I've talked to in the past that are like, Leon, I was so nervous. I didn't know what I was expecting. And I'm like, what do you mean you didn't know what you're expecting? Did you ask them what type of interview you were going into? Here's the dirty secret. Most interviewers want to help you. You just got to ask. So always ask whoever your contact is, hey, I have an interview scheduled for Friday. Can you tell me what to expect in that interview? Should I expect a behavioral? Should I expect a technical? Right? Oh, it's behavioral. How much time should I plan to go through this behavioral interview? Wonderful. Thank you so much. Oh, I have a technical schedule for Friday. Can you give me an example of something I might encounter during this technical? Will be more questions? Will be more kind of Code Wars, leak code type problems? Should I be prepared to whiteboard? Right? You ask. Right? You ask. Don't go into your interviews like an accident. You should never show up for an interview and be surprised what you're going to be doing. Right? Cool. So always know what you're walking into. Always know what to expect. Ask clarifying questions. It doesn't, like, you got to realize that teams love this. Teams want a person that's inquisitive, that's going to ask, that's going to be prepared, that's trying to get to know them, right? So you gotta ask. Don't ever go into an interview not knowing what you're getting into. It's going to take some stress off your shoulders. It's going to make sure that you're prepared the best for it. And I mean, sometimes they lie. Sometimes you get got. That's going to happen. They might tell you one thing and something else might happen, but at least you're not going in unprepared. Cool. Now, this is where I get the most hate. This is where I'm going to get an email. If you're going to send me an email, just save yourself some time. I'm not going to respond to you. You don't have to send me an email. I'm not going to read it. Don't DM me on Twitter. Like, I just don't care. Your opinion doesn't mean anything to me. This is where I get the most. This is where I get the most hate. All right. Once you're recommended, it is your job. Imagine a scenario where if you Googled, somebody gives you $80,000 or more, right? Imagine just by Googling, somebody could hand you $80,000 or more, right? Because once you get recommended, it is now your job to scour the internet for every single thing about their process. Every single thing that company is going to do in an interview, you need to know. Google the crap out of them. Go on Glassdoor. Go on GitHub. Go on Blind. Right? I mean, Google like somebody's going to hand you an $80K check if you figure out everything about their interview process. Because it's out there, folks. The number of folks that go through an interview and then put the questions on Glassdoor is astronomical. The number of folks that'll straight up share their interview questions on Blind is astronomical. The number of folks that'll submit a coding challenge and then push their code to GitHub is out of this world. Hold on, let me show you something. I'm going to do it live too. Hold on, let me pull up my tab here. Where's my mouse? There we go. I got to do it here just so I don't get got. 1 second. Cool. All right. Here's my GitHub. Let's name it like I've done this before, so I know this will exist. Let's do like Spotify interview. Oh, not in Leon. I just want to Google like GitHub generally, all of general. Look at this. You got. Look at it. Come on now. Some of these are old. Some of these are old, but some of these are from not that long ago. You can see all this stuff. Ooh, the exact question. Oh my God, this must be their front end question. The exact question. Front end interview, Spotify coding challenge, and like not only is it the question, but it's their freaking answer to it. Right? Come on now, folks. So once you know you got an interview coming up, you gotta go to town. Go through Glassdoor, go through GitHub, go through Blind, go through Reddit, go through Google. Like if you find the answer, somebody's going to hand you an $80,000 check. Now, the things I get is, Leon, you can't tell them to do this. No, get out. Take your gate with you. Get the fuck out of my face. Right? What do you think I'm going to do on the job? Is that legal? Why would it not be legal? To Google? To Google, of course, is legal. What do you mean, is it legal? What do you think I'm going to do on the job all day long? I'm going to Google my ass off all day long. So you know what? If they ask the same questions that they know the interview, that they're going to ask in the interview, if they ask the same questions that they already know are Googleable, you know what? If they ask the same questions that they already know are Googleable, I'm going to take that as a sign that they wanted me to Google it. I'm going to assume that's part of the test. I'm going to assume that they're going to think that I am dumb for not having Googled it, found the question they were going to ask, and came in prepared. I would think less of you if you didn't do it. So many of these companies know their process is out there, but I can't tell you how many people are so bad at interviewing that they don't even Google the company. They don't even Google the question. They don't even take time to prepare for that company. So if the company's not switching up their process, that's because they don't care. They want you to know it. They want to know that you are prepared going into this interview. So please do everything in your power to research and find out about this company, to know what you're walking into, and to be prepared. Cool. So we've got interviews. We know what we're doing. We're not going to walk into this interview like an accident. We've asked the interviewers, hey, what should I expect? We know that we have a behavioral coming up. We know we have a technical coming up. We've done our best 100 devs try to Google the crap out of the company to find any past questions to use as part of our prep, to find anything we can about the company to prep. So now we're prepared, but how do we prepare to go into those behaviorals? How do we prepare to go into those technicals, right? So this is how I ask my students to prepare. It's something that's helped them time and time again to get good jobs. All right. First thing is the bank. There's another thing. Engineers hate this shit. I don't know why they hate it, but they hate it. They hate that I give you this link. This is called the bank. The bank is a list of problems that I want you to practice. We have the behavioral questions. There are 22 behavioral questions on here that you need to be a lean, mean carring machine, which we're going to cover in a few seconds. And then there are 300 technical questions that you are going to have memorized, that are all going to go into your Anki. And when you show up in an interview and somebody asks you about polymorphism, boom, you got them. When somebody asks you about what a callback in Node.js is, boom, you got them. When somebody asks you what's a higher order function, you got them, right? All these things that not only will you know, but you've Ankied so much, you're gonna be smooth. It's gonna come out like butter. You're gonna be sitting in that chair being like, yeah, this is how I answer this question. Boom, you hit them with it. You hit them with that knowledge, right? And they're asking these wild questions, and you're like, boom, right off the dome, my friend. I got this. I got you. Let me explain. Hold on, sit up. Sit up a little bit for me. Yep, sit down. You got it? Cool, I got you. Boom, here you go. Here's how you explain that, right? It comes out smooth. Because you've practiced every single day for 3 months these questions. So when you're in a technical interview and they're asking you some questions, you're not going to fumble. You're not going to be like, I don't know. No, you're going to have a bank of questions to fall back on. Now, is every question on this list? No. But there's enough here so that you can make up something on the spot based on the work you put in for all of these questions. There's 22 behavioral questions on here. Not every behavioral question you're going to have is going to be on here, but there's enough raw material here that if you prepare these 22 behavioral questions, you can answer every behavioral question that comes your way. There will not be a single question you get asked that if you did not put in the effort for these 22, that you won't be good at. Right? Then when it comes to having conversations with engineers and you're just talking through your project, you're talking through technical stuff, boom, you have all these things off the dome that you know, that you feel comfortable with. And so you'll never get asked a question and go, oh, sorry, I don't know about that. You'll go, oh, well, I have used this and I like this for this reason, and I've used it in this scenario, right? And that's kind of similar to the thing that you were asking about, right? So you'll never just say, I don't know, right? Juicebox Hero, hey, thank you for the 5 Get the subs. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. You called me out. I feel bad. I'm sorry. I owe you a Twitter message. I'll hit you up. I'll send you a message after stream. I'm sorry. She came from my neck. They came from my neck. All right. So we have our behavioral questions. You got. Thank you. I appreciate you, Juicebox. I really do. Thank you. So we have our behavioral questions that set up our behavioral interviews. We have our technical questions that set us up to do well during our technical. You are going to add these questions to your Anki deck. You're going to practice them every day. When you're brushing your teeth, boom, you're working through some of these questions, right? It becomes something that is a part of you for the next few months, so that when you are in an interview, right? When you are in an interview, it's smooth. It's crisp, right? Cool. Now, are there answers to all these questions? Yes. There are some folks that have filled out the bank and have shared it on Discord, but we know for spaced repetition and active recall to work that you're way better off filling these out yourself. And the reason why it's way better if you fill them out yourself is that it'll be in your voice. You're going to be the person that needs to answer these questions. So it should be in your voice. It should be based on the things that you remember and understand and know. So you could find somebody else's answers, but it's not going to be the same. So don't do yourself that disservice. Put in the time to work through these questions, to understand them, to know them in your own voice, so that when you're in an interview, you know what to do. All the resources and the places to find like answers to these questions could be found pretty much in these like articles here. A lot of these questions come from other people's collection of questions. I've just put together the ones I think are really important. There's also some questions to ask your interviewer for when you get to that stage. Everything is here for you. Cool. We passionately refer to this as Banky at 100 Devs. And so I really hope that over the next few months, you take some time to do Banky sessions. I know myself and some members of the stream team will stream Banky. I know some folks like to get on Discord and do Banky. We had a group last cohort that every day during lunch did Banky for 3 months. Literally every day. Every day at lunch, they would get on together and they would work through Banky questions on Discord. Find community on Discord, do the same thing. This should be part of you. You're doing your Anki every day. You're doing your Code Wars every day. If you do this, come on now. If you do Banky and a Code Wars every day for 3 months, do you think you're not going to be ready for technical interviews? Do you not think you're going to be a lean, mean interviewing machine? It's a lot of work, but the path's clear. There's no way you open all the doors that we just talked about opening on Tuesday and tonight. And then there's no way if you do your Banky and your Code Wars every day that you're not ready for interviews. There's no way. No way you're not ready. And you know what? Other folks are not doing this. They're just not. Folks coming out of other boot camps don't do this. Other folks coming out of other boot camps do not do this. Other folks coming out of a 4-year CS program definitely don't do this. They learned something 4 years ago and forgot about it. You are studying questions every single day. You're doing code challenges every day. You also have a 100 hours project. You also have real clients. Do you understand how people got jobs now? Right? We're doing stuff that other people don't want to do. And that's how we 360 slam dunk all over their face and get these jobs. It's not magic. Maybe a little magic. Maybe a little magic. But it's a lot of work. Cool. Abracadabra. That's like one of my favorite videos of all time is the Loiter Squad's Abracadabra. 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 It's so good. All right. Where can I download more discipline? Make your bed. Make your bed every day. All right. So we got the bank. Now, in the bank are these behavioral questions. Okay. So how do we actually answer these behavioral questions? There is a tried and true method for answering behavioral questions, and it's called CAR. Cause, action, result. Every single question on the behavioral questions you should have a 3-sentence answer to: the cause, the action, and the result. So the cause is what happened. Like, what happened? The action is the action you took to solve that cause. And then the result is, why are you the best engineer ever? Because of how you solved that problem. The cause, what happened, action, the action you took, and the R is the result. How are you God's gift to earth based off of how the action that you took, right? And you want to have those 3-sentence answers for all 22 of these questions: cause, action, result. Cause, there's some keywords here, right? There's some keywords here. Oh, somebody said, what if we get hit up by recruiters now? We don't have the bank completed. I got messaged by an Amazon recruiter. What should I pursue? The magic words. I got a lot of magic words for you tonight. That's why I said it's a little bit of magic, right? I've been doing this for a while. The magic word is, hi, I'm not currently pursuing new opportunities at the moment, but I would love to reconnect in 3 months. Can we set up a time to talk 3 months from now? That's it. That's the magic word. You're gonna, if you're opening all these doors, you're gonna have recruiters reaching out to you. And when those recruiters reach out to you, what you want to say is, hey, I'm not pursuing new opportunities. Because when you say I'm not pursuing new opportunities, that means it sounds like you're happy at your job. You can't pay me enough to apply. Right? But I'd be interested maybe 3 months from now. And then you set up a time so it's already on the calendar. So they can't forget about you, right? It's on the calendar. You have the call. And in 3 months, you'll be ready. Koba, hey, welcome. Cool. So to answer cause, there's like 2 keywords I really like, or 2 ways to start off your cause. At my last company, or at my last opportunity. At my last company, or at my last opportunity. At my last company, I helped 4,000 universities bring their academic research online. At my last opportunity, I worked with a team of developers to build web applications for numerous clients. At my last company, at my last opportunities. If you say the word bootcamp, you have lost. If you say the words 100 devs, you have lost. There's no need for you to put information out there that doesn't need to be out there in the beginning. I'll say it one more time. If you mention the word boot camp, you have lost the interview. You might as well pack up and go home, because that introduces the smell. Number 1 rule, exactly. Don't snitch on juice box. What about butt camp? Don't snitch on yourself. Let them dig. Let them dig. Let them dig. Let them dig. What is 100? Of course, 100 devs on your resume doesn't mean you have to say the words. I'm talking about when you're in a behavioral interview, right? When you're in the interview, you don't have to mention these things, right? You can just say, at my last company, my last opportunity, because 99% of the time, well, not 90%, I'm going to say 90% of the time, they're just there to hear you say something so that they can ask the next question. 90% of the time, if you don't set off any of their alarm bells, they're just going to move on to the next question. And if they get through all their questions, they give you the technical interview. Right? So no need to snitch on yourself out the gate. No need to mention anything that might make them look at the resume again. Right? You let them dig. But 90% of the time, they're just going to listen to what you say and move on to the next thing, unless you raise the alarm bells. So if you say, at my last boot camp, boom, alarm bells going off. Boot camp? You did a boot camp? You're a boot camper? I don't know about that. Did you really learn everything you needed to learn? Like, So you don't say it. 100 devs. 100 devs sounds good. It's got some cachet. Oh, what's 100 devs? Now you're no longer answering the question that they asked. You're talking about 100 devs, which is great. You can say 100 devs is an agency with a training program. I went through that training program. I worked with some great clients. Or you could do that. But it would have just been better and easier if you said at my last company, at my last opportunity, and then answered your car. Because car should be 3 sentences. Cause, action, result. Anything else is extra and is stopping you from moving through the interview. Cool. Let them dig if they want to dig. Action. What are the steps you took to solve the thing that happened, that caused that happen, right? It must be positive. There's no time to be humble during the hunt. We are hunting. We are hunting. No time to be humble. We're dressed for war. No time to be humble. Must be positive. No, well, I stumbled and I tripped and it. No. No. Time to be positive. Right? Everything should be positive. Everything should be upbeat. No time to be humble during the hunt. All right. So, cause. What happened? Action. What did you do? Positive thing that you did to solve that cause. And result. How are you better because of what happened? How are you the best thing since sliced bread because of the actions you took? Now, some folks are like, Leon, I don't know how to answer. Like, what? That's why we practice. Some folks are like, Leon, I talk too much. Leon, I talk too little. Leon, I have no idea how to answer these questions. That's why we practice 3 months ahead of time before you start actually interviewing. That's why we practice 3 months before we start actually interviewing. That's why we're going to have a cause, action, result memorized for each one of these. And we're going to have it so dialed in because of Anki that when they ask us a question, cause, action, result, boom, it's going to sound smooth. You're going to be calm. You're going to be cool. You're going to be collected. And that's going to come across, right? When you're cool, calm, and collected, that comes across in the interview as capable. It comes across as knowledgeable. It comes across as somebody I want on my team. And so many folks that get stuck at the behavioral stage is because they didn't practice the questions. They didn't have real good examples. They didn't have things that they had worked on that they could throw out that actually sounded plausible, real, that sounded natural, that helped you get past that sniff test and into the technical. And that's why we start now. If you're like, Leon, I don't know how to answer these questions, great. We're going to have classes where I show you how to answer these questions. Every single person here, by the time you graduate, will have enough experience at 100 devs to answer all these questions. I don't care if you've never done anything else besides 100 devs, you can answer all these behavioral questions based on what we did here during our time together. Because you will all have worked with clients or volunteered or contributed to free software. You will all have worked in teams. You will all have worked on sprint teams where you've built real products. You will all have committed to 100-hour projects. You will all had plenty of nights where we did this practice together. So even if you don't have anything right now, a month or so, you'll have enough for each and every single thing on this list. Now, if you can sprinkle in your past experience, that's great. Not everybody has that privilege. Alrighty. Let's do it live. I haven't prepped these in forever. But let's see if we can do some cause, action, result together. All right, let's bring up the inspector here. Let's see if we can get like an actual question. Some of these are like weird ones, but let's see if we can actually get like a real question. All right, 17. Hopefully that's like an actual question. Why are you interested in this opportunity? Wonderful. All right, thank you for your time today. So at my last opportunity, I had the chance to lead a large engineering team and helped new engineers start their careers. I'm looking for a team that is helping the educational space, and I want to bring my wealth of experience as an engineering manager to a team where I can build real products that help real customers, particularly folks that are trying to change their careers and or find jobs that they love. So I'm interested in this opportunity because I feel I can satisfy all those goals and help build wonderful software. Right? This one's really not like a car-y problem. It's kind of harder to fit car in here, right? But one of the things that you're going to see throughout all my questions is there's going to be one theme through all my questions. And that one theme I'm going to bring up, no matter what question you ask me, is engineering manager. I've led engineering teams, or something in that vein of building with teams, leading teams, engineering manager, because that's the type of roles I'm going to go after. Right? So if that's the type of roles that I'm going to go after, you're going to hear that theme throughout all my answers. We're going to do some more. We're going to do some more, and then we're going to have whole nights where we practice this, right? But I'm going to have those themes throughout my answers, because what happens at the end of these interviews, right? Excuse me. Not everyone knows this, but at the end of your interviews, the person that is interviewing you fills out like a form that says like hire, strongly hire, do not hire, strongly do not hire. That's it. You sign. They literally check off a box and then write like what they remember about you. And so when that person checks strongly hire, I also want them to write engineering manager in that little box. That's it. That's what I want them to remember, right? So you're going to notice that all my car-y questions kind of have the same theme, because I understand the game that I am playing. I understand that if I get through this, somebody's going to say strongly hire, and they're going to just remember the few things that they remember. And so the way that we can game this is by saying the same shit over and over again, right? So you're going to notice some themes in my answers. All right, let's try this again. Hopefully we get like an actual real question here. My math right? None of these are like the last ones are like not the actual questions. Oh, cool. Tell me about a time you failed. Great question. All right. Tell me about a time you failed. Great question. Alrighty. So at my last opportunity, we had a very important client that needed a specific piece of software, and I decided to push a change live to production late on a Friday. That code failed. It brought down the site, not only for that customer, but 4,000 other of our customers. And that night I stayed up with the team to fix that bug, but we also put in systems and strategies so that never happened again. We made sure to have a team decision to never push code live on Fridays. We built in new testing infrastructure to make sure things that would break didn't make it to production. And after that change, for the 4 extra years that I led that team as an engineering manager, we never had a breaking build make it to production, and we kept our 99.99% uptime. Boom. CAR. Cause, action, result. What did I do? I made a big mistake. I pushed code to production. What's the action I took? I put a cultural change in place and a technical change in place. I put a cultural change that we don't push code live on Fridays. And we put a technical change in place where our code is now tested. Things that break can't make it to production. And the result, well, I led a team, hint, 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 and we had our uptime going forward for the next 4 years. Cause, action, result. I have not made a technical mistake, honestly, so I don't know what to say. BS. We've all made mistakes. We all have gone to the console and had something not work. right? One of my favorite answers to this question, right? One of my favorite answers to this question was, I once spent 3 days trying to fix my code only to realize that it was a curly brace. So from that point forward, I used linting so that I would never have to worry about missing my curly braces ever again. And you'll be happy to know that I have never missed a curly brace in the past 4 years, right? Like that was a legitimate answer. I had somebody answer that in an interview, and I was like, that's the best answer I've ever heard to this question. So I don't care where you're at. There are ways to answer these questions. You just have to put a little bit of thought into it. You have to think through and answer honestly. These things should be like real, right? And you're all going to have some, like, you have time to think through these. You don't have to be like, I'm doing them off the dome now because I've done this, right? Like I used to practice these. It's been a few years, but I practiced these until my eyes bled and like I knew my shit, right? So yeah, I'm doing them off the dome right now, but it's something that I put a serious amount of time in to get better at. And so once again, my card brought up this engineering manager theme, and you're going to notice that all my answers do it. So every answer should be based off of our clients and not our past experience. No, you can definitely sprinkle in your past experience as long as you have a good story, right? You have a good story that ties what you did in the past to what you are doing now. And that's why crafting your story is the first thing I asked you all to do. Right? It doesn't matter what your past experience was, as long as you have that story that brings you to the current point and why all the things that you did in the past make you a better engineer. I don't care if you like, I've had folks that have crushed this, that had the completely different careers that they were able to spin into experience to why they were showing up at my door. And so that's why we got to think through. That's why we spend this time. That's why I asked you to start crafting your story. That's why we're going to have specific nights, typically on Fridays, where we walk through this stuff together. We're going to have another crafting your story class. You can watch the unlisted YouTube video where I craft 5 alumni stories live. Then we're going to do it again together with this cohort. Then we're going to have nights where we practice car. We're going to have nights where we practice prep, right? This is the start of the next 3 months of our lives. So it's okay if we don't come out the gate bangers, but we're going to work on this together. The unlisted video is on Discord. It's in the materials, I think, from last class. All right. Civic Thunder said, I need to pee really bad. Can we take a break? Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and take a break so Civic can go pee. We are at the top of the hour. When we come back from our break, if you're new around here, we do 5-minute breaks to make sure that we're staying healthy. It's a marathon, not a sprint. When we come back from our break, we're going to move into technical questions. The secrets, the tips that you need to do well during your technical. We've laid the foundation for our behavioral. Now we get to our technical. So I will see you all in 5 minutes. Civic, hope everything goes well. Alrighty, folks. See you in 5. I'm gonna run some ads, so you actually have to take a break. Peace, Lang. Thanks, JR. Appreciate it. Where's the music? Oh, there we go. Matt, catch the VOD. Go enjoy your date. Good luck. No, the clan tag is the whole bit. It's the whole thing. Oh, wrong headphones. I'm like, where's the music? I have the wrong headphones in. You're like, Leon, 2 sets of headphones. Yeah, I got it like that. That's, you know what I'm saying? All right, folks. Come on back. Come on back. That engineering manager salary. Now it's PD funds. Alrighty, folks. Schedule Saturday to complete my behavioral questions and some reading. That's dope. Can you check the celebration section? Thank you for everything done. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, folks. Come on back. Come on back. We got to get into the meat tonight, folks. We got we got through the behavioral. Now we got to get through the technical. Bangers only. Leak Flux 14A. Thank you for the 5 good subs. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Alrighty. Alrighty, folks. Let's get into it. All right. So there's kind of 2 phases to the technical, right? We talked about there could be a chance where you sit down and you're talking with an engineer and you kind of are answering some questions. You can show your project, things like that. This happens for a lot of my students interviewing. Remember, I told you that about half my students did not have technical interviews. And when I say they didn't have technical interviews, I mean that they didn't do a coding challenge, like a take-home challenge or a whiteboarding or like a live coding challenge. They had behaviorals, they answered technical questions, they showed their projects, they did things like that. So about half of them, that's where it stops. And so you want to make sure that you feel really comfortable in these conversations you're going to have with engineers. We're going to practice you talking about your 100 hours project. We're going to practice talking about technical questions. And just like we had CAR for behavioral, we have EU for our technical questions. Cool. Yeah, join the catch-up crew. You're good. We got you. Catch-up crew is exactly for your situation. All right. We have EU, right? Explanation, use, example. Right? EU, explanation, use, example. So for all of the technical questions that we have on here, you want to have an explanation for it. You want to have a use for it. And you want to have an example for it. For all 300 questions, right? So what does that look like? Well, one of the questions is about CSS sprites. So the way I would explain CSS sprites using EU is I would say that CSS sprites are when you take a bunch of images and you combine them into one image. The use for this is that you can limit the amount of requests that you are making to a server. Because if you have all your images in one image, now you've turned it from multiple requests into a singular request, which can speed up some operations. And an example of this would be Amazon. If you go to Amazon's website and you click on any of the assets that you see and you try and pull up the image, you will notice that the logo, the swoops, anything that's an icon is actually just one large image, and they're only showing you a piece of it for each portion of the UI. So that would be my way of working through EU, where you would have an explanation about what it is. You would say, here's how we would use it, and you would have an example of it in action. Right? And so you're going to work through that for all the questions we have here. And the idea here is if you do this for all the questions, especially if you do them on your own or like in a small team or on Discord together, you really start to learn a lot of stuff that we really haven't had a chance to cover in class. So not only are you filling some gaps in the knowledge that we don't have time to do together, but you're also starting to talk more like an engineer. You're spending a significant portion of your day during Anki talking about technical stuff. You're talking like an engineer. You are explaining things to other engineers. And so by the time you get into a technical interview, it's something you've been doing every single day. You're comfortable talking about these topics and you have bits of knowledge to reference. So you're never going to say, no, sorry, I've never heard of it. You're going to say, oh, well, that sounds similar to this thing. And I know here's an explanation of that thing. Here's how I've used it. Here's an example of how I've seen it before, right? So you go from saying, sorry, I don't know, to at least getting in the right ballpark with the things that we cover throughout this checklist. So behavioral questions with CAR help you get through that, past that first sniff test. These EUs through the rest of these questions make it so that if your interview stops at just technical questions where you're just engaging with an engineer, you slam dunk that interview, right? Cool. Now, last but not least is the technical whiteboard. There's two different ways that this happens. There is like legitimate whiteboarding, and there is answering of technical, like there's like the coding challenge, right? There's two flavors to this. There is like where you're physically answering a technical challenge on a whiteboard, and there's maybe like where you're given like a code wars and you're typing out the answer. Whiteboarding used to be more popular, but I love this gif, right, where whiteboarding used to be more popular, but nowadays if you're going to test someone's like coding ability, you should probably give them access to like their tools and like how they would actually write code. And so the actual whiteboarding test has kind of faded a little bit. It's still there. I would still say like 30% of my students get like on whiteboard type tests. But a lot of them are now kind of just like regular coding challenges similar to your code wars. But there's something you have to understand. And that's that whiteboarding specifically, and even your coding challenges, have nothing to do with just solving the challenge. That is something that's a goal, but the actual act of whiteboarding, the actual act of solving these coding challenges, there's some other things that are just as equally as important as actually solving the problem. And the big thing here is your communication and collaboration skills during the solve. Remember, there's two things, right? There's two things that every engineer is trying to figure out during these interviews, right? They're one, trying to figure out, can you code? And the other thing they're trying to figure out is, do I want to work with you for the next 2 years? I have had folks that have come into my whiteboarding interviews. Yes, I still whiteboard. Yes, I'm a monster, right? That have come into my whiteboarding interviews and they did this. Only on the pi square 5 to 1. Yeah. Okay, I think that's right. Yeah, bro, you're close, but nah, we're good. We're good. All right. The whiteboarding tests more than you getting the answer. I want to see how you communicate. I want to see how you collaborate with other engineers. Right? Here's the thing. Most interviewers will even help you. Most interviewers want to help you. I took a group of my previous students to Google. At Resilient Coders, we have a partnership with Google, and I took my students to Google, and we had their, like, the way Google does it is like you have interviews, and then like your like interviews go to a committee. We had the person that was like the chair of that committee and the interviewers in the room, and they both told us that it is part of their mandate to give you a hint. To give you a hint. Google, you're in an interview, they want to give you a hint, but they can only give you those hints. They can only give you that guide if you're communicating and collaborating. So this whiteboarding, these coding challenges is so much more than just solving the problem. It's how you communicate during this solving. It's how you show how well you're going to work with other engineers during your team on these problems. And definitely when it's a smaller team, when we're not talking like big companies, when the person that's interviewing is probably the person that you're going to work with, they're really trying to see, can I work with this person for the next 2 years? Can they articulate when they're getting stuck? Do they have a clear thought process, right? And so the cool thing is we can learn to do this. We can learn to do this well, right? We can learn to 360 slam dunk the softer skills that are being tested during the whiteboarding process. And so I'm going to show you my patented tips and tricks to get through this part of the interview that's not only going to help you solve the challenge, but is also going to help you solve this communication and collaboration phase of the technical interview as well. Now, whiteboarding tests so much more than, like I said, just the actual coding challenge. It tests that communication collaboration. It's a good chance for the interviewer to ask specific job knowledge. It shows me how you think under pressure, as much as that sucks. It tests how well you whiteboard. Whiteboarding is like an actual skill. Like most people that go up to a whiteboard for the first time don't do too well. So you have to practice it. It's also really worthwhile to mention that this is like a highly debated topic right now at companies. A lot of companies no longer whiteboard because they don't like it. A lot of companies are even moving away from coding challenges in favor of looking at your projects, asking you like technical questions, right? So not every company you experience is going to do this, but I need you to be prepared. Remember, we're opening as many doors as possible so that if you do come across one of these whiteboarding sessions, if you do come across one of these coding challenge sessions, we're ready for it. Cool. So let's talk about the whiteboarding skills specifically, and then we're going to talk about like solving coding challenges. Because if you're solving a coding challenge on the whiteboard, or if you're solving it like on a Code Wars, Coder Pad type thing, it's the same skills. So let's just very quickly talk about whiteboarding in case you encounter this, and then we're going to spend more time talking about how to solve the coding challenge. Cool. All right. So if you actually are one of the folks that have to go up to a whiteboard, or even if you are solving a coding challenge, when the interviewer is laying out the problem, please take notes on the side. Right? Please take notes of the question that's being asked of you. Right? And the reason why this is important is because there's nothing worse than getting 20 minutes into solving a problem only to go, what are we doing again? What was, can you tell me the question one more time? I'm sorry. I know we've been doing this for 20 minutes. Can you tell me the question? Now, I never had a problem reviewing the problem again, but for some people, this is like an immediate, like, we're done, right? And so it's really good to take notes on the side, very small, just high level stuff. And typically I'll say to the interviewer, oh, thank you for the question. Do you mind if I take notes as you relay the question, please? And they'll say, yes, please feel free to take notes. And you give yourself a little slice of the whiteboard, and you just do high level stuff so that you remember the question. All right, they're asking for this, and now you have your notes so that even if you get deep into the problem, you still remember what's being asked of you and what to do, especially exactly when you're under stress. whiteboarding can be stressful. And so people that heard the question, understood the question, 10 minutes in, when things are getting a little more intense, will forget. So make sure you take your notes. Make sure you practice writing clearly. If you have never written on a whiteboard, it is a weird experience. If you have access to a whiteboard, I would try practicing on a whiteboard. If you don't have a whiteboard to practice on, I just use a white piece of paper, like a plain white sheet of paper, and practice writing out some of your code wars on that white sheet of paper, right? Because you're going to get used to like spacing. You're going to get used to like how much room your handwriting takes up. Not everyone can be blessed of having worked with the nuns like myself. So make sure that you are being mindful of how much space you take up when solving problems. Cool. The other part is to be mindful of your actual space. A lot of folks that are new to whiteboarding, they literally run out of space on the whiteboard. So be careful. You can also, if you are communicating with your engineer that's giving you the interview, this is the golden thing. This is the big brain plays right here. You ready? Come in, get in close. Big brain plays right here. To save space, you can put a method on the whiteboard that says, hey, this method does this complicated thing. Just to save some space, I'm going to put the method here. I'm going to come back to it, right? We'll fill it in a little bit. This method does this, but I just want to save some space and I'll come back to it. Think about what I just did. I skipped over a complicated bit of the program by saying I'm saving space and I'll come back to it. And then I get them going. We're talking, we're communicating, we're collaborating, we're solving the problem. Time's up. Oops. We never got back to filling in that bit. How about I follow up with it in an email about how I would solve it? And then I go to my car. I'm sitting in my car Googling, figuring out how to actually do it. And then I send them the fully realized code. That's one of the beautiful things about being on a whiteboard. It's a game. We can play it if we want to. Right? And so whenever I've gotten stuck on a whiteboard, I've used it and it's worked. I would say 75% of the time that's worked, but it's at least worth a shot, especially if you have no idea how to do it. Right? And so you just put, hey, we'll get back to this. We run out the clock and then we come back later, right? You're still solving the problem. You're just saying that this piece we're going to come back to later, right? So be mindful of the space you're taking and practice. Whiteboarding is a skill that you have to practice. Nobody shows up to an interview and is good at whiteboarding if they've never done it, right? And so make sure that you actually practice this skill on the off chance you actually have to do it. Like I said, most interviews right now are remote. A lot of them aren't really bringing you into the office. Like the whiteboarding thing is kind of dying off a little bit anyway, but it's worthwhile. I love whiteboarding. The reason I love whiteboarding is because my code doesn't have to run. I can talk my way out of shit and I'm good at doing it because I practiced it. So I love whiteboarding. If they want to put me on a whiteboard, I'll take a whiteboard every single day because my code doesn't have to run. Right? So it's worth practicing it in case it does show up. Now, most of you, right? Most of you won't probably whiteboard. Probably about 30% of you will. But a lot of you will have coding challenges similar to things like your code wars or elite code as we get further on, right? And so my strategy for getting through technical coding challenges comes down to one very important tool, and that tool is called prep. Just like we had CAR, cause, action, result, and EU, explanation, use, example, prep is how we solve all of our coding challenges. Every coding challenge you do from this night forward, you must use prep. Every code wars, leak code, interview, every coding challenge you ever do, right, for the rest of your life is prep. Indifferent said Leon's bad handwriting is also a hack. You can't do text recognition if you can't recognize. Exactly. See, you figured it out. Bad handwriting is going to get me through more interviews. You got me. It's been my strategy all along. All right, prep. Parameters, returns, examples, pseudocode. I've taught every single one of my students to do this for years, and it helps them get through the interviews. If you are nervous going into code wars, if you're nervous going into coding interviews, this will save you. This is how you get authentic communication and collaboration. It's how you buy time to solve a problem. It makes you look like a phenomenal engineer, and a lot of people don't know how to do it, so you are going to interview better than them. Cool. Parameters, returns, examples, pseudocode. What the heck does that mean? All right, let's prep FizzBuzz. We're going to do FizzBuzz together, and then we should have plenty of time for questions. So we're gonna prep through FizzBuzz, and then we should have plenty of time for questions. I just need a text editor. Let me just open this real quick. All right, file new. Cool. New. I'm gonna save this as I'm gonna save this as prep.js. Cool. All right. So I just have like a normal JavaScript file, and we're gonna walk through prep. When you're first starting out, right? When you're first starting out, I recommend that you actually type out prep, like PRP at the top. Once you are actually in interviews, we don't type out prep anymore. I see a lot of folks that like do it for a while, right? That do it for a while, and then when they're in an interview, they're still typing out prep. We don't actually type it during the interview, but we do it while we're practicing, just so we don't forget anything. AV Noob, hey, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. All right. FizzBuzz. So we've touched on FizzBuzz during class, but FizzBuzz is a problem where I want you. So I'm gonna give you the problem, then we're gonna talk through prep. I want you to take in a number, right? And I want you to print fizz. I want you to print that from 1 to that number, 1 to number. If the number is divisible by 3, I want you to print buzz. If it is divisible by 5, sorry, I want you to print fizz. Whoop. If the number is divisible by 5, I want you to print buzz. And if the number is divisible by 3 and 5, I want you to print FizzBuzz instead of the number. So basically, you're gonna have a loop, and that loop is gonna print from 1 to a number. And at any point during that loop, if the number is divisible by 3, instead of printing that number, we print fizz. And then at any point, if the number is divisible by 5, we print buzz. And if at any point in time the number is divisible by 3 and 5, we print FizzBuzz instead of that number. Very, very, very common interview question. It comes up a lot during interviews. I think I saw like 2 or 3 people in chat that said they had a FizzBuzz problem earlier today. All right. Is it a bad look if you start Googling stuff in the middle of a technical whiteboard? Yes, if you have not talked to your interviewer about doing it. Yeah, so typically you want to, before you go, like you want to make sure, knowing going into an interview, can I Google? Remember, we talked about you need to talk to your interviewer before you show up and know what's acceptable. All right, cool. Are people still asking this one? Hell yes. I've seen this question asked twice so far this year from my students. And last year, I lost count. So here's what FizzBuzz was such a popular problem that people stopped asking it. And then it came back with a vengeance because it was like, wait a minute, we're going to actually keep asking it, because if you can't solve FizzBuzz, 1, you don't know how to code, and 2, you did not prep for this interview at all. So it still comes up. There's definitely variations of it. There's ways to make it harder. So yeah, it definitely still comes up, but there are definitely variations to it as well. All right, so parameters, returns, examples, pseudocode. Alrighty, so my interviewer just explained the problem to me, and I'm gonna go say, great. Do you mind if I just take some quick notes about the problem that you just explained? And they're gonna say yes. I'm gonna say, all right, wonderful. So I just want to write down real quick to make sure I understand the problem. You said I'm going to print numbers or return numbers, one to some value that we'll call the number that you're giving us. And then you said that if the number is divisible by 3, we do fizz. And if the number is divisible by 5, we do buzz. And if the number is divisible by 3 and 5, we do fizz buzz instead of the number. Does that sound similar to the question that you just asked me? Is that correct? Right? I'm asking the interviewer, is that correct? Right? And the interviewer is going to go, yes, yeah, that sounds right. You're going to be given a number. That number is going to go from 1. You're going to print all the numbers from 1 to that number. If that number is divisible by 3, you do fizz instead. If it's divisible by 5, you do buzz instead. If it's 3 and 5, you do fizz buzz instead. So now we're on the same page. I understand the problem. We've talked through it. I am not ready to solve this problem. Where most people mess up is they go, great, I know how to solve fizz buzz. They get really excited. They jump into the problem, and that's not what we're here to test, folks. Remember, solving the problem is only one part of the problem. We're also here to demonstrate our communication and our collaboration. I have so many folks during interviews that get excited because they think they know how to solve it, and I can see that they're getting excited. I'm like, wait, you probably already know how to solve this, right? So if you know how to solve it, you gotta stay cool, calm, collected. You can't show them that you're about the 360 slam dunk all over their face, right? But I understand the problem. All right, thank you for that problem. I think I have a good handle on it. I just have some questions I would love to ask just to better understand the problem before we actually jump into solving. Is that okay? Sure, that's great. All right, so you mentioned that I am going to be given a number, right? And this is where the parameter starts. Remember, parameters are the things that are passed in to your function that you're building. All right, so you mentioned that I am taking in a number. I have some questions about this number. Will this number always be a number? Right? Will it always be a number? And the interviewer is going to say, yes, it'll always be a number. Wonderful. So it'll never be a string, a Boolean, undefined, another function. I can assume that you're always going to give me a number. Yes, it'll always be a number. Great. So I'm going to say it's always going to be a number. Now, will this number ever be a floated value? Okay, have like decimal places, or will it always be a whole number? Yes, it'll always be a whole number. Great. So it'll always be a whole number. Will it ever be a negative number? You said 1 to the number, so will it ever be negative? No, it'll never be negative. All right, so it'll be positive the whole time. So I understand I'm taking a number. It'll be a whole number. It'll always be positive. There'll never be anything other than a number. Is there any other kind of things that might be passed in that I haven't clarified here in terms of it being number, whole, positive? Is there any other kind of like gotchas that you think might come up here? No? Okay, wonderful. So I feel pretty comfortable knowing that I'm going to be taking in a number, and I just want to clarify what I am returning to you. And so returning to you, you said you want me to return all these numbers. Is it okay if I like print them to the console, or do you actually want me to return these numbers as we're going through? Oh, I can print them to the console. Wonderful. So I know that I'm not going to actually spit anything out of this array. Like I'm not giving you, out of this function. Like I'm not going to give you like an array of all the numbers. I'm not going to give you anything other than like console logging each number as we go along. So just to make sure, you would like to see a console log of each number. So if this runs correctly, we would see the number 1 get console logged, and then every number up until the number you gave me. Wonderful. All right. So I feel comfortable knowing that we're taking in a number, only a number, that'll be a whole number, it'll be positive. I feel comfortable knowing that we're going to console log all the values. Do you mind if I give you an example before we jump into solving this problem? Sure. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and set up my function here, and I'm going to call this function fizzbuzz. You said it was fizzbuzz, right? It was fizzbuzz, not fizzbiz. Fizzbuzz, right? Yeah, fizzbuzz. All right. So I'm going to call this fizzbuzz. All right, fizzbuzz. And I know that I'm taking in a number. So I'm just going to call my parameter num here. So I know I'm taking in a number. And then I'm just going to go ahead and set up some test cases here. So I'm going to call fizzbuzz, and I'm going to pass in the number 5, and I'm going to call fizzbuzz here, and I'm going to pass in the number 3, and I'm going to do one other one here, fizzbuzz, and it's going to be a bigger one. Sorry, we're going to do 15 here. And so for this first one, since we're going to start off with the number 1, 1 is good. Then we should see 2. And then the very first time we hit divisible by 3, it should be fizz. Then 4. And then buzz because we hit 5. Does this look correct to you? And that we should see in the console the numbers 1, 2, fizz, 4, and buzz. Cool. All right, let's do this other one here. 3, it should be a little quick. We do 1, 2, and then fizz, right? That looks correct, right? Because 1 and 2 are not divisible by 3 or 5. We finally get to the first thing that's divisible by 3. So instead of putting 3, we do fizz. Beautiful. And then we have this last one that's bigger down here. I'm just going to copy this real quick because we already did the first 5 numbers here, so no need to redo them. So we'll do fizz, and then the next one would be 6. So 6 is divisible by 3, so we should see fizz. Then we would have 7, 8. Then we would have fizz again for 9. Then we would have buzz for 10. Then we would have 11, fizz for 12, 13, 14, and then this is the very first time that we have fizz, buzz. Cool. Does that look correct? Does this look correct in terms of kind of what we're expecting to come out of this problem, right? We know that we're taking in a number. That number we've confirmed is a whole number. It's positive. We'll never have anything other than a number. We know that we are console logging each of these values. We've done some test cases. Does this all seem good? Cool. So at this point, I have set up my test cases for a very particular, I've set up these test cases for 2 reasons, right? There's 2 reasons why I set up my test cases. Why do you think I do test cases? What are your guesses? Why am I doing this? Buy time. It does buy you some time. These test cases are definitely how you can run out some of the clock here. Running out the clock is definitely something fun that you can do. We'll talk about why that can be impactful. If you're running out the clock, they often can't give you a harder question to follow up. And as long as you've been communicating with them the whole time, it would be on them to say, hey, we have a second part to this question that we need to get to, right? And you kind of already asked them to clarify what the process would be, right? So yeah, we can run out the clock if we need to. It shows you your process. And we actually know that we're doing the right thing, right? We understand that we are doing what the interviewer is asking us of. I've had so many folks that have come in and interviewed that have built out a wild solution that works only to not actually solve the problem I asked of them, right? Right? That I have not asked of them, right? And so this really clarifies it. And then the other thing is I have my receipts. I have my receipts. If the interviewer decides to change the question a half an hour into me solving the problem, I can go, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. We ran these test cases. You said this was correct. Where did bop come from? We did fizz buzz. Where did bop come from? There's no bop here. You said fizz buzz. Where did bop come from, right? So you have your receipts. Cool. Now, this part of the process, we're still not done. Right? We're still not done. We've done the prep. We've done the parameters, like the thing that's coming in, the number. We've done the return, what's coming out of the function. We've done our examples. We still have our pseudocode, right? So now I'm going to come back into my function. I'm going to say, all right, since I know that we want to go from 1 to the number that's being passed in, that sounds like a loop to me. So I'm going to go ahead and do a loop here. I'm going to loop just from 1 to that number. And then inside this loop, I'm going to check to see if the number is divisible by 3, 5, or 3 and 5. And so I know to check to see that if it's divisible, I'm going to use some conditionals that are going to use a modulus. I'm going to have mod 3. I'm going to have mod 5. And I'm going to have mod 3 and 5. And actually, as I'm typing this out, I'm noticing something interesting here. I'm noticing if I wanted to do like the number 15 and I did my modulus in this order, 15 mod 3 would be true, but I wouldn't get FizzBuzz, I would get Fizz. So I know that I have to do the 3 and the 5, I think, first. Let me just go ahead and do my logic here. Whoop. I'm just going to do my mod 3 and 5 here. And so I think if I do that first, I'm in a good spot. And then inside of each of these conditionals, I am just going to go ahead and console log the answer. Like I'm going to either console log the number or the fizz buzz slash fizz buzz. Cool. All right. Does this seem like a good direction to go about solving this problem? And they're going to say, yeah. At this point, they would give me a hint. Most interviewers want to give me a hint. They might have said, I've told people, hey, you're doing 3 and 5. You should probably try 3 and 5 first. Can you tell me why? Can you tell me why? Right? I've given them that hint when I've seen that their pseudocode was incorrect. So now I know what's coming into the problem. I know what's going out of the problem. We have some examples that we've all agreed upon. And my pseudocode is at least in the right ballpark, all before I even attempt to solve the problem. If you have a 45-minute interview, the first 15 minutes of your interview should be this. If you start actually trying to solve the problem within the first 15 minutes, you have fucked up. You have failed the communication and collaboration part of the interview. You might go down a wrong path. You might not have thought through an excellent solution. I have had so many engineers jump right into it, and I didn't get to see the communication. I didn't get to see the collaboration. I didn't get to see how they thought through the problem. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Can you code, and do I want to work with you for the next 2 years? Do we work through problems in a similar way? Can you take hints? Can you take instruction? Can we work together? And so prep is super, super, super important. It's something that you should do with every single Code Wars that you do going forward. Every coding challenge you go forward, you should do prep. Prep should be part of your daily practice so that by the time you are actually ready to interview, you feel comfortable talking through all the parameters. You feel comfortable talking through all the returns. You feel comfortable working through examples. You feel comfortable working through your pseudocode. You feel comfortable talking to your interviewer, conveying your ideas, explaining your thought process, letting the problem marinate in your brain so you can actually figure out how you're going to solve it. This is the way, folks. My students that really invest in prep, right? Invest in prep. They make it part of their daily practice. They just do phenomenally well in interviews, way better than other engineers that don't do this process, that don't know how to do this process, that don't know how to communicate, that don't know how to collaborate, that don't know how to think through their ideas, and don't know how to show it in a process that can be understood. So we've talked a lot tonight. We've had a lot of little things to work through. I'm not even going to solve the problem. You can go ahead and do. We've done FizzBuzz before. This is important, right? We've done the prep. Cool. All right. I know we've covered a lot between Tuesday and tonight. We've talked about how to open the doors on Tuesday's class. We talked about how to get through the technical interviews in terms of CAR, EU, and prep. It's a lot to put on your plate. Lots of little things. So I want to make sure we got like 20 minutes left or so. I want to answer some questions that I see in chat, and then we'll do a raid. Definitely stay for these questions. I'm sure there's a lot of things that are going to come up that are really important to discuss. Would you do all that even for FizzBuzz? Yes. Even for a problem I know is super simple, I still do prep because it's not about solving the problem. It's about the communication and collaboration as well. especially for problems that I think are easy. Because if the problem's too easy, I know a follow-up question that is harder is probably coming after it. Does the whiteboard have a standard size? No. A lot of tech companies just have full-on walls that are whiteboards. What about virtual whiteboarding? It's not really too much of a thing. I've seen 1 or 2 companies that do it, honestly, but you're more likely, if you're doing a remote process, to do a coding challenge where you're working through a coding editor similar to like Code Wars. Do you use prep for Code Wars? Yes. Every single Code Wars you do should use prep going forward. Can I get some endorsements? Nah, I don't actually add folks until they graduate. I definitely don't endorse until you graduate. Should we look up technical questions we haven't gone through yet? Absolutely. You can do exclamation point the bank or exclamation point bank to get the technical questions. Rufio does a great job of showing prep with Code Wars. I agree. Rufio has done streams working through Code Wars with a full prep process. Definitely want to watch their past streams. Can you give a tip if there's a question where you have absolutely no idea how to answer? You try to give something that's at least close to what they're asking. So it'll be rare if you do full Banky and you've built out your project, it'll be rare that you don't at least have something that you can hinge on to a question. And so I literally would never say I don't know. I would at least say, oh, that actually kind of reminds me of, or I think it's in the same vein as this. Tell me if I'm wrong. And I would give something, at least something. And then they go, actually, it's not what I was thinking about. I go, oh, okay, that makes sense then, right? Does a company hire remote for other countries? They can, but it's definitely harder to get hired remotely, especially if you're trying to like work for like a US company remotely. It's definitely harder. The thing I recommend folks that are looking for remote opportunities is to look for companies with a global hiring process. We'll actually share a list later on when we do the hit list together, where I show you a list of 80 companies that hire globally, and we build out a hit list based on those companies. So that's actually, we did that last cohort. So you can actually find that video on YouTube where I built out a hit list specifically of companies that hire no matter where you're located in the world. What does bank stand for? Oh, it's just a bank of questions. Yeah. A question bank, not an acronym. Do the behavioral questions need to relate to code or tech? Like the one about working under pressure. I have a lot of examples from teaching, but can't think of any from code. No, they do not have to be from code or tech, although ideally they come from code or tech. As long as you have a story about how your teaching has made you a better engineer, then you are free to answer questions using your teaching experience. But that has to be part of your story so that when you're answering those questions, there's a connection between what's being asked and what your answer is. What do you think of things like triple byte for the job hunt process? It's one small door. I don't put all my eggs in the basket, but you might as well try it, right? Doesn't hurt. You got to think that you're going for 60 recommended applications. If triple byte's one of those, sure, why not? Should we remove the open to work filter on LinkedIn? Is it helpful or harmful? Maybe we have to ask Danny this one. We're gonna try and get Danny to come on and talk us through like LinkedIn best tips. I think it's okay, but I don't have any data to support it. It probably does help a little bit with like the algorithm in terms of recruiters reaching out, but I don't have any definitive data on yes or no if it helps or harms. But I will ask folks that I trust. Can I still have access to all these videos on YouTube and Twitch for the next 1 to 2 years? I have no plans of taking down any of the videos. Yeah. And none of my content will ever be behind a paywall. Ever. Ever, 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 ever. Ever, ever, ever. A lot of people are interested in me, but after noticing I'm a sophomore in college, they stopped considering me. How do I avoid this? Stop telling them that you are a sophomore in college. Just don't mention it. You're probably snitching on yourself, because every single day I help folks get jobs that do not have a degree at all, that have never gone to college. So you're probably snitching on yourself. Do you have any advice on how to plan out the prep? It's up to you to figure out like what your time and your schedule is, but you need to like this. Like I always say, you can't go into your weeks like an accident. You need to plan time for your prep in Code Wars. You need to plan time for your Banky. You need to plan time for updating your professional list. We will have some class time for this, but you really do have to find that time, and that's why I said this. It's not like, I honestly don't feel like it's hard. I just feel like it's a lot. And that's what makes it hard as we go throughout this part of the process. I started reading about data structures and algorithms and finding it really interesting. Is it too early for that? Probably, because there's so much stuff you have to focus in on right now that we will get to data structures and algorithms. We will cover them in really approachable ways that make it so it's easier for you to solve your actual questions during technical challenges. So I would hate for you to be focusing on the wrong things, miss that part, and then not be at the place you need to be. I'm getting an associate's degree in CS this month. How can I land an internship for next summer? So the college internship process is very cyclical. It's not, I mean, are you going to continue your degree, or are you just looking for it? Because if you're not continuing your degree, then I wouldn't go for an internship. I would just go for a job, and then all the advice in how to get a job and our how to get a job class applies. Yeah, I don't recommend internships unless they have a conversion to full time and they pay the same. Claudia, hey, that's great. Glad to hear it. Hacker rank is very similar. We mainly use just Code Wars and Leet Code throughout program. What kind of project can we do if we are an Uber driver, food delivery driver? One of my students that actually went to Amazon, that was an Uber driver, they built an app to compete with Uber. That was a delivery app that gave fair wages to the drivers. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's something that tied their past experience into their current experience, and it was good enough to get them a role at Amazon. How are we turning in our freelance contract? I'm just going to ask for it. Like a normal document. How far back do we want our GitHub green squares to go? At least throughout this year. If I was trying to play the game. Do companies cover the cost of moving to another country if they choose you? Some companies do, some companies don't. Do I need to add 100 devs on LinkedIn to get added to the group? No, you do not. As long as you just join and you have a picture and like a filled out profile, you get added to the group. Cool. If I come to your cohort with a background in game development, would it be wrong to have games I've made? No, absolutely not. That'd be great things to have in your portfolio. When I say no games, I mean like don't have like tic-tac-toe or like the normal cheesy games that boot campers build. Is machine learning part of tech? Do you have content on it? We have a little bit of machine learning content. Microsoft sponsored some of our streams last cohort, and we used their open source machine. Well, not sorry. We used their open machine learning tools to build out some cool stuff. They have some wonderful like machine learning APIs that we used. Do you think 100 jobs is going to get so big that recruiters know it's a boot camp? Probably. And then they're going to know that we have amazing candidates that they're going to want to hire. They seek us out. That's the long-term goal. Do you mean we should backdate our pushes all the way to January? I mean, it's up to you. Do you have any advice on becoming a mentor? I would like to work with the new developers outside of work. Just support people. We got so many people on Discord that could use your support. Just do it. That's it. That's all you need to do. You'll get better at it over time. Make sure that when you seek to help, that you also seek to learn. Is now a good time to hone in on Banky daily code wars, getting all the checklist items completed? Yes, you should start like tonight. Like, we're going to end a little early. Take some of that time to plan out what your week's going to look like, what the month's going to look like, and get to it. I had a coffee chatter throw a bit of shade saying we're an agency. Yeah, it's called a gatekeeper. You're going to run into those folks. That's why we have so many folks that we're reaching out to, not just one or two. Some people are assholes that can't help it. How many people have you seen go through this that are above 40? We have a pretty decent number of folks that are above 40. Hundreds. Cool. All right, I think we got through some good questions tonight. I hope you had some fun. I hope you learned some stuff. Hope you learned some of the secrets here to learning how to get through this interview process. I really do hope that you walk away with some things that you're going to fundamentally change about your experience of how you're going to interview. So, if you missed our first class on Tuesday, it is up on YouTube. I would really appreciate that you give it a like and leave a comment and just let it play so we keep those retention numbers up. A lot of people, if you saw all the new folks posting here tonight, they're all coming from YouTube. So I appreciate everybody that stops by the YouTube to help support. Let's go ahead and do a raid. Rufio streaming. What? Let's go. All right. Hold on. Let's go and set up this raid. All right. Hello, it's Rufio is streaming. So of course we're going over to our stream team member. All right, everybody, have a wonderful night. I will see you on Sunday for super review. Super pumped. Thank you for learning so much stuff tonight. Let's raid. Oh, 10 seconds. Please put these things into practice. Start doing your prep. All right, folks. Peace. Let's have a good night. Raid. Peace, YouTube. Thank you. Really appreciate all the support on YouTube. It's been really phenomenal. We're rating right now, so people are no longer here. It's just us. Thank you for the likes, thank you for the comments, and thank you for sharing it with everyone. All right, peace.